Hello there, kia ora. Welcome to this episode where we're sitting down and talking to candidates leading into this year's local body election to find out how things are going, really. Joining me today, I've got Michael Moore running in Kapiti Coast. Whereabouts exactly are you running there? Because it's such a big area, I completely get lost.
Right, so Kapiti Coast spans from Paikakariki in the south, right up from Ramati, Parapumu, Waikanae, which is where I'm running, which includes Te Horo, where I live. It's a rural outpost, and in the far north of the district is Otaki.
Okay, so it's quite a big area.
Yeah, it is geographically. It's about 65, maybe 70 kilometres from the top to the bottom.
Okay.
Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit. Maybe 50 kilometres.
Yeah. So when you're looking at a place that big, how do you sell your vision for what you think the place can become?
Well, you know, Paul, Kapiti's got its little pockets. Those village names I mentioned are all kind of different, all parochial, and they're all running. You know, at the last election 3 years ago, there was a move to remove the community boards. There was such an uproar that not only will they remain in there under the representation review, but they introduced one for Ramati as well. So there's a real desire to have the boards, which are really, you know, close level to the community, and they get involved, they come along to the community meetings, they get things done, they want those bike stands put in, and they want to be heard about the skate park being rebuilt, and so on and so on. So in Waikanae, where I am, there's been lots of good stuff happen. You know, and when I say good, I mean when people turn up. I think out of all the community board areas in the district, it's not unusual to get more than 100.
Wow.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
It really is. Because there's issues, you know, there's a development issue at Waikanae Beach, which has galvanised a huge number of locals down there. So 65 of the local residents at Waikanae Beach turned up to our community board meeting and then came to a subsequent one the same night that the skate park had to be redone down at the beach area. So we had these two convergent groups there with big issues, and the local MP turned up, and yeah, it's fascinating.
Tim Costley is local MP.
He is indeed. Yeah. So the electorate, which is currently called Otaki, in the next general election, next November, will be called Kapiti, and it will span right down to, I think, Plymouton, and cut off at the north. I think Otaki's still going to be included.
So when you get groups like that, you know, you're going to have your young groups out there on the skateboards. I'm assuming they're young. I've never been very good at it, so I've never really paid that much attention to it. And you have maybe an older group that's worried about changes to the way that houses are built and planned and community growth and stuff like that. How do you sell your vision to them?
Well, you know, we've got quite a diverse number on the board of people on the board currently, and I'm sure the new mix will be equally diverse who come to the party of being good listeners. And boards are really good conduits to allow people to speak in public and to translate and take that through to council. So, you know, our vision should not differ from what the community want. We should be a representation of that. Although we all come with our own suitcase of ideas, and I do, there's some environmental things which I think is sadly lacking in the area that I look after, that I want to see some change on and take the community on that journey as well. But, you know, if you're doing a good job at that level of politics, you're making good changes by listening to people. And you know, just before I started talking to you, I got a message that the big development that was going to occur on 3 lots of land at Waikanae Beach, the developer has, you could say, he's pulled the consent application, but he's put it on hold. And it's a direct result of the community standing up and saying, actually, we want something different here.
Okay.
Yeah.
In that case, when you're out and about, because again, relatively big area to travel around and meet people, what are the things that you're being told by voters are their big concerns going into the election?
It's clear that the big hot button subjects that everybody's talking about on this cycle are rates. And you could look at the nuance of how that's been framed from both sides, left or right, or extremist to not. Councils have limited ways to get an income, of course, but it's not a problem to look at it and say, actually, where are we spending things? Where are the priorities? And it's not always going back to rubbish and rates, how rates are spent on potholes and get rid of those kind of cycleways and things, because, you know, communities have a role to provide a space for community. And it's not just about, you know, pipes under the ground. It's about libraries. It's about creating community. And sure, in these times when you do have more need on different resources, you may have to prioritise things. And there's always, I think, savings to be found. You know, there was a lot of concern in our area where the chief executive got a trip off to Harvard. And, you know, you can argue that all kinds of ways. You should be investing in senior staff for good leadership training. How it was done and where he went is up for debate. So I think there's a lot to learn out of this election cycle. But rates are, of course, always a big concern, especially when they go up. And we had a 17% increase to pay down some of our debt. So we need to look at that far more closely in this next term of council.
Are you finding with voters that they're understanding that years of artificially depressed rates leads to these kind of increases that they're seeing now, which is kind of what you're getting from the taxpayers union at the same time going, we want you to artificially compress rates. So at some point in the future, they're still going to get these big jumps in rates increases to make up that backlog.
I see we will adjust going forward. We won't. I mean, we need to pay down our debt. Yeah. There's no doubt about that, because if we don't, it's just going to be pushing it out and pushing it out. But I think a new council will be far more prudent on how much a rate increase goes. And, you know, a council business is quite different than other, where you have to look at your limited pool of income coming and for priorities. In the northern part of Kapiti, up in Otaki, we've been spending quite a lot on infrastructure, on 2 new reservoirs up there, huge amounts of pipes under the ground, a fire loop that's going around Otaki. The township has seen a huge amount of investment going on, and there's going to be a lot of growth up that way, and building growth. At the same time, Waka Kotahi, New Zealand Transport have been finishing off the revocation to hand that final section north of Waikanae right through to Otaki back to the council for ownership and the road controlling authority. So they're doing a huge amount of roadworks on that too to bring all that in line, and we're going to see all that come to an end by early next year, we would hope. So, you know, communities like that, although they've been hugely disrupted, there's been a lot of investment in infrastructure going into that kind of community area.
The community understands that investment and disruption is a long-term gain for them?
I would hope so. You know, of course it's frustrating.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen this in other areas in the district where big roadworks have been continued to happen. And, you know, I have great faith in our teams producing really good outcomes and trying to negotiate and communicate along the way. But it's a natural part of a growth cycle. And as we have more developments on the books, and of which there is plenty in our district, these kinds of services have to go in to match it.
Kapiti itself is a little bit like South Auckland here, like further south, your Wiri, your Pukekohe, your Tuakau here in Auckland, and that they're really big feeders into the main city. You're so close to Wellington down there. How do you plan for that kind of growth? Is that a big concern for the council down there? As you know, we want somewhere that's a bit more open, a bit more lifestyle friendly for people who still want to work in Wellington or in the Hutt Valley, for example.
Yeah, it's a highly commuted town. Yeah. I don't know the numbers, but we have electrification of the train, which takes exactly 1 hour from Waikanae, which is where the electrification ends. There's a desire to move it further north up into Otaki. So, you know, we are a satellite city of Wellington. But there's not a huge appetite, in my view, for a unitary arrangement with Wellington. There's a lot of push away from there. Wellington's got huge amounts of its own worries and concerns and needs. We went ahead with our water model ourselves. There was 3 proposals put forward to work with Horowhenua in the north, or Wellington, or a combination of, but our elected members decided by great majority to do it alone. So we are a bit parochial, and we do sit on our own in most part. Yeah, and I think if you did a litmus test or an interview around our area, you wouldn't find a lot of complaints about the built environment. There'll be concerns about other things that will come up. And we've seen some of those hot button issues, which I think when you drill down, they aren't insurmountable, you know, and having conversations about what's a priority. I think I mentioned to you a while ago, we're building a fantastic new library, Studio Architecture, who were the designers behind the Nelson Airport and the infamous Jacinda Playground and Parliament Grounds. They're designing our new look build of our Waikanae Library, which is due for finish within a year.
Okay.
And these kinds of facilities are not just libraries anymore. If
Yeah.
you look at modern libraries,
Oh, they're everything.
they're everything. And they're really important facilities. Not only to go and get your council services done there, but to play a game of chess maybe.
Yeah.
Obviously to get a book or lots of books. They're not going anywhere. But they really are important community hubs.
Yeah, I saw the designs for I think it's Grey District Library.
Right.
And because they were also in the process of upgrading, theirs was well below earthquake standard, and the new one should be open, I think, midway through next year. And the bottom floor, it's cafe, there's childcare, there's facilities for every age group to do something in there, as well as the books and the library services and the council services. And it's a beautiful looking building.
Well, this is why it's really important to go and ask people to get involved and vote, because councils have a real impact on your local life.
Yeah.
More so than other forms of or state parts of government, when they have a real direct impact on how your community grows, how it's shaped, how it looks. Our engagement on our library project was really good, really good. They did a phenomenal job over more than a year and a half, and a lot of people took part in it.
Yeah.
And a huge amount of that engagement was taken on board in the process of creating what we're going to be building now. So that's really exciting. So as a local elected member, you've got to look at what are the good things, and what happens in community in our area, which is something which makes the place that I want to live and our community want to live.
This year, Kapiti is one of the 44 councils that have to do a Māori ward referendum.
Indeed.
You're being forced to do it because the government's like, hey, we're racist, let's do this. I'm really curious to get your perspective on the referendum itself. I know at every meeting you've probably been asked, how are you voting?
Indeed.
But I think there's a lot of nuance that could be grabbed as well from what your perspective actually is on being made to have the referendum or the response that you're hearing from people.
Yeah, well, first we have about 6 candidates running for the Māori ward, and almost all of them, I'll say almost, but almost all of them are really superb. I would love to have any of them sitting around the council table contributing. Interestingly, they're working together as a group. One of them is going to be elected in that district-wide Māori ward seat. They're picking up some interesting feeling out there that they think it's looking very positive.
Okay.
There's parts of the Kapiti coast which I don't think will probably support it by majority, but I'm hoping in the north and in the south, in Kaikakariki and what have you, and Otaki obviously, which has got a high Māori population and a very high Te Reo speaking. I'm told Otaki is second only, I don't know the facts on this, but I'm told second only to Rotorua in fluent Te Reo speakers. So, look, I'm optimistic that the Māori ward will be retained. This is the first time we'll have one in Kapiti. And it only brings more good conversations around the table. They don't get special privileges by having a Māori ward councillor.
Yeah.
They get equal representation like anybody should. So I'm really pleased to support it. And of course, I've ticked to retain that as well.
Yeah. I don't get that option here in Auckland.
Right.
It's not something that's going on here. Last question for you then. Voting closes in not very far away, depending on when I get the video out. By the time this video goes out, it will be too late for people to post their ballot in, mostly. What's the one thing you think people should take on board when they go to vote this year?
It's easy for me to answer that. Look at people who have deep roots to their community, who talk beyond rate cap, fix the potholes, spend money on the pipes and so on. Look for the people who actually have a real connection with the community, who've got a history of being there, are members of local clubs and committees and residents groups or whatever, and have a history of engagement. And they're easy to find.
Yeah.
You don't have to go digging into the dark trenches of the underworld. They are out there, and those kinds of people will bring really good conversation and well thought out. I can think of people in our particular area who live up in Rikarangi to down to Waikanae Beach, and in Te Horo where I am, who are really involved in, I know people who are involved in running the Te Horo Garden Trail, the first time since COVID. There's lots of people out there who are running, who bring a lot to from the community to that council table vote. You know, and to me, it's as simple as that. You know, yeah.
Brilliant. Michael, good luck.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And I will definitely give you a call on Saturday night for the live stream to go. How did it go? Give us the
Looking
info.
forward.
Yeah, it'll be lots of fun.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.